Thanks all for hopping on for another version of our Outspoken webinar series. We love doing these, and I'm really excited about today's webinar. We are going to be talking all about how to embed conversion-driven communications in your marketing strategy. So we're going to help y'all send not another newsletter. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. I'm very excited to have everybody. So I will start with Jared Short. So he has been working in digital marketing since 2017. He has exposure and experience in search engine optimization, paid search, social media, web development and design, content management, graphic design, and creative writing. He is a lifelong resident of Memphis, currently working at the oldest real estate agency in Memphis, which was established in 1868, super old there, Mark Spensdorf Realtors, where he oversees all marketing initiatives such as website, social media platforms, and vendor relations. And then we have Gramisha Crump. So she holds more than 15 years of experience working across marketing and fundraising for organizations like the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund at the University of Oxford North American office. As the first director of digital marketing and social media at the National Civil Rights Museum, she focuses on leading digital transformation initiatives and enhancing audience engagement through data-driven marketing strategies. She is a proud Tiger alum, earning her BA in Public Relations from the University of Memphis's College of Communications and Fine Arts. And then we have Micah Fleet, who is a brand strategist for Speak Creative, and he is actually the brand strategist of both Gramisha and Jared. After spending 6 years in TV news and video production, Micah brought his skills for audience engagement and growth to the marketing profession. For the last 4 years, he's worked with brands large and small to increase sales, drive donations, and impact their bottom lines. When not working, you can find Micah playing darts and cheering on his beloved Memphis sports team. And then we have myself. My name is Lee Mooring, and I am the Director of Agency Marketing here at Speak Creative, where I have been for just over a year. And before Speak, I worked for 4 years at Blackbaud as a consultant and in marketing for the arts and cultural sector. My educational background and my first 5 years of experience are in the museum field. I hold bachelor and master's degrees in history and museum studies from Clemson, College of Charleston, and the Citadel. And outside of work, I love cheering on my Clemson Tigers, playing golf, and exploring where I live in Charleston, South Carolina. So thank you, the three of you, for being here with us today. Super excited to dive in and hear all your tips and tricks. So here's just a brief agenda for the day, and we're going to keep to that as best we can. And just another reminder, please put in any questions you have, and we will get those answered, and feel free to utilize the chat as well. We love to hear any comments you guys have. All right, so before I hand it over to Micah, if you are not familiar with Speak Creative, I will do a brief introduction to us. So we are a full service agency partner. We really consider all of our clients to be partners. We want to come alongside your marketing department and feel like an extension. So we do all sorts of services for you: digital marketing, video production, brand and print media, and development, in addition to full website design and redesign, website hosting, and digital marketing campaigns and creation. So we will be hearing from two of our stellar partners today on our digital marketing side, and we really are here to serve you. So if any needs arise, feel free to let us know, and we'll get you connected with the right people and help you dream big with your marketing campaigns. And like I said, we really treat our clients like our partners. We want to work alongside everybody. We serve organizations in industries all across the board. So we have nonprofits, small businesses. We have arts and cultural organizations, large companies like FedEx, smaller businesses, and K-12 schools, healthcare. So we serve them all, and we're happy to be trusted by so many different organizations. All right, that being said, I am going to throw it over to Micah, who's going to give us some awesome tips on how you can help drive more conversions in your communication. So Micah, I just handed the control to you, so we should be good to go ahead and roll.
Awesome. Yeah, I just clicked to accept, so we should be okay there. Thanks for handing it over, Lee, and thank you to everybody in the audience today. We're really excited to be able to talk to you about this stuff, especially, conversion-driven communication, because you can do all the marketing in the world, right? We can get you in front of as many people as you want, but if they're not getting to the end result, then we're not getting that benefit, right? So this is the biggest thing that we want to be able to do. So jumping ahead into our next slide, a big piece that we want to establish early on in your communication is a brand purpose. And this is something that we're all, really, really familiar with, right? Obviously, we want to make money. We want to drive donations. We want to do everything that we can. But a big part is explaining to your audience why you exist outside of that purpose, right? And for our two other panelists today, it's really easy to describe that message. For the National Civil Rights Museum, they are supremely focused on education and advancement. They're a public service. There's something that they really want to make sure people understand, that their mission goes beyond donations, beyond exhibits. It's the education and advancement of this incredibly rich history of civil rights in the United States. And then Jared might have the most important job of all of us, and it's figuring out where you're going to live, right? It's more than your individual journey as a customer and explaining what it is that you need from a company. As a brand, you really want to make sure that your audience understands that, not only are you there for your bottom line, but you're there to help them engage in whatever it is that the service that they're looking for. So Airbnb and Google, two fantastic examples. Airbnb, a fantastic way to really engage and get you to whatever destination you want to be worldwide. And then Google, information access, right? They have all of our data. They know everything about you. But the reason that they do it, or at least what they say, is that they can get us to what we need and our information even faster. So you want to think about that statement at the end of this slide. Brand purpose can be explained in a simple sentence. We want to give you X so that Y. So here at Speak, our mission is we want to help you engage with your audience so that way you can achieve your goals as quickly and as easily as possible. Stepping into our next piece here, brand purpose, that's that last statement that we just made is the big one that we really want to be focused on. But then we want to get to talking about our brand core, because when you establish why you exist, you want to build out from that. And that's really where we're going to start talking about our marketing journey. What is it that we aim to achieve? Well, we want to educate the public. We want to get people into homes. What is it that we stand for? For Speak, we have, our 5 pillars of what we want to do. We want to do good work. We want to serve. We want to work with heart. We want to tend the tree. We want to be responsible for our partners. This is something that always comes from the top down. And while it's not something that you're constantly sharing, it's something that needs to be in the background of all your brand communications, because when you're establishing that voice, it's extremely important that we develop that kind of consistency. And talking about voice is really one of the most important things about your communications. And it's one of my favorite parts of being a brand strategist, because working with all of our different partners, we get to understand, not only what things look like in the attraction sector, but what is it like for services? What is it like for banks? What is it like for nonprofits? We want to understand what it is that we're coming across and really trying to develop. You can see some of these things that we've laid out in humor, formality, respect, and enthusiasm. These are just 4 pillars, 4 base markers for you to help kind of think how you're organizing your communication. There's some great examples of, hilariousness in communications. If you're looking for a good laugh, go see what Wendy's does in their social media. They're a fast food chain that branches out well in advance of fast food to communicate. Sports leagues and teams do a great job of switching between a casual and a formal voice, engaging with their fans, the diehards that are keeping a sports book every single day, and then the more formal ones who just want to catch a highlight at the end of the day. And then, think of some of your organizations. Like I see that we have, some National Aviary. I see that we have Opera Memphis in here, some churches, things like that. You're going to get to be a bit more formal, a bit more respectful, or excuse me, a bit more respectful with your clients. Someone that you can explain, this is what we're trying to accomplish. We want to be a voice of authority in this space, but we also want to feel like a friend. So when you see something show up on your feed from us, it's not an unwelcome intrusion. It's something that we're actually advancing. And so thinking about that tone is extremely important. And when you're working with a partner, like Speak, or, with your internal marketing team, it's a conversation that you should be having. And it's one that our panelists have with me, constantly. We're in the middle of developing a brand new site for the Civil Rights Museum. And, not to get ahead of ourselves here, but we've had a very large conversation about how do we want to bring that voice not only into the 21st century, but respect the past that has been established there and build on it to where we can be not only a more authoritative voice, but a friendly and less intimidating version of that history to make it accessible for everyone. And when we're talking about homes, well, I mean, goodness, I don't have to tell anybody in here anything about interest rates that you haven't seen on the news, right? It can be intimidating. And so our role in that space is to be comforting, to be professional, to be responsible, and to show people that we have expertise to guide you through something difficult. So you really want to think not only about the service that you provide, but think about yourself from a consumer perspective or from the audience perspective. When you're engaging something, what are your hesitations? And when you have experience in something for 10 plus years, sometimes it can be a little difficult, but that's why you need to lean on your partners and some of your internal staff and say, hey, what do we think when we engage with this service, when we see this brand? What are the pieces that we want? And because from there, you get to thinking about that audience and you get to thinking about your customer journey. And this is really the most important part, knowing that audience, because when you know who you're speaking to, it's a heck of a lot easier. It's why we encourage cameras on in all of our meetings. It's why we want to be able to see your face, establish rapport. Lee and I spend just as much time talking about golf and the Masters last week as we did about some of our internal services, because building that is just as important as actually deciding what it is that you want to say. So basic demographic information. And if you're not leveraging your analytics in this way, specifically in Google, like we were talking about earlier, but your website is a wealth of information. It can tell you, people's ages, where they located, how much time do they spend on your pages, what are they clicking on? And this is all information that drives strategy forward. Because when you look at other organizations that they follow, it's going to help you in your messaging. It's going to help you deliver not only your ads, but decide, what specific pieces you want to add in and, add in and deliver. So you're remaining topical, but also speaking towards your organization's expertise. And I'll use a great example. Was anyone else really excited about the eclipse when it happened? I'm a sucker for space. Like anything that happens up there in the sky, I'm all about it. And so when we were designing an internal newsletter, which we're talking about here today, how to make your newsletter stand out, how to make your customer, conversations a little bit more specialized, we wanted to speak to that. It was something that people were excited about. So not only do we reference the eclipse, you can work it into conversations, how to outshine your competition, how to make sure, that there aren't any shadows on your customer journey, anything like that. And then you want to take a look at some of the more, hardline facts that are based on conversion, visiting in person. In-person interaction, while everything is moving to the digital space these days, when we're talking about some of our attractions, some of our more physical based things like, banking, realty, any of our attraction-based businesses, we want to make sure that people are not only coming through the door, but we know what they're doing when they get there, because that allows us to follow up and leads us to our next point. What do they respond to best? Are you doing individualized blogs that are advancing your search engine optimization? All of this data is available to you. And if you don't know how to interpret it, that's okay. That's why you get partners. That's why you work with a brand strategist. So we can look and say, hey, these are some topics that we might not have considered that are getting a lot of traffic from your audience. And I think if we speak towards that, we can engage them a bit further. Video and photo, I know it's expensive. I really do. It's a conversation I have with clients regularly, but it is arguably the most important piece of conversation that a brand can be doing right now. Um, Text will only get you so far. Your brand voice is extremely important because it's going to carry through all of your communications. But just think about this. When you're establishing rapport with someone, are you more likely to engage with them if you can hear what they sound like, if you can see the good work that they're doing in the field, if you can really, empathize and engage with them in that way? Because when we're talking about audience growth, we're really talking about engagement and conversion. We want people to see your business, to see your organization as not just a resource that they can go to when they're needed, but a welcome voice in the space that's providing utility, even when you aren't needed. And that's a big part of what we do. It's why we have these webinars. It's why we're even having this conversation. And so those platform insights that you can get from some of your Google Analytics, from some of the tools that we use, or even an informal survey, we've done a lot of data collection that way, will really help inform not only, a communication schedule, but what you should be talking about, and maybe can even show you some insights that, you weren't even expecting or weren't even super familiar with before you got started. One of the examples that I'll use before we go to the next slide, we just recently did this for Mark Spinsdorf, right? Realty is constantly changing. Listings are constantly changing. Things can be in contract and then be back on the market, or it can be in closing and something can fall through. And so we ran into an issue of how do we communicate that effectively in real time? And what we did was build a completely custom web page for them that interacts with a proprietary software called IDX. And I know those are a lot of words that people don't know the meaning to, but think about it this way. What if you could create a live database that shows exactly what you have available for your audience the second it's available, and updates them on the process all throughout the way? So if it's contingent, you can mark it. If you have, 15 tickets left for an event, can we show that there? If you have a heat thermometer for donations, which, NCRM's fundraising is spectacular, and Ramesh is going to talk about that a little bit later. But anytime you can show people progress and engage with them in real time, you want to be able to. And we designed something completely custom for Marks, launched it, I want to say, what are we, a month now into it, Jared? A little over a month. And the results have been fantastic. We're talking about 40% almost increase in utility views and property views, just from the launch of that one page, which we wouldn't have even known was a need unless we had this information available. So something to be thinking about there. Few tips, okay, that we want to make sure that we're doing. Email's great, all right, but how many emails do you get from brands these days? Okay, chances are if you've bought something online, you're going to get an email from that company until you absolutely nuke your email and find something new. So instead of focusing solely on that, we want to talk about, our cadence, we want to talk about new media, and we really want to know when and how to reach into our audience most effectively. That's why we're talking about video. That's why we're talking about photo, brand voice, everything like that. Because when we can take our platforms and make them into something that isn't just a text delivery service, that isn't just a tip sheet, and instead engage with our audience on a more, human and interactive level, that's where you're going to build that brand loyalty. That's where you're going to get some shares. That's when you're going to generate, what I like to call water cooler talk, right? And we don't have water coolers anymore. But what we do have are these informal get-togethers where we're talking with people in the industry with similar goals, and we can say, hey, we've seen this on our end. What are they responding to? You just shared a video. What kind of conversions are we seeing there? Video and photo content, I'm going to emphasize again, are extremely important. But when you're reaching out with these emails, think about them this way, okay? Do you have something important that needs to be conveyed on this timeline? You want to make sure that you attach, something timely, something tied into your messaging that makes them want to engage with it. And it can be something topical like the eclipse. It could be something like, the Fed's getting ready to re-review interest rates. Let's talk a little bit about how our realtors can guide you through this. Or it could be something like, Gramicia's recovering for, which is April 4th, and talking about Dr. King, the National Civil Rights Museum, and how we're advancing, not only the vision of civil rights in this country, but what does it mean for you to participate in the civil rights movement now? What does it mean for you to understand not only the history, but see the vision moving forward? And that can be something as, hot button as elections. It can be something as innocuous as teaching someone how to register to vote, or what it means to participate locally, in your civic responsibility. And so for some of our other clients, or for some of our other partners, especially when we're talking about museums or attractions or businesses, we all know that your business is cyclical, right? You have new exhibits coming in. You have, new designations for home loans or any type of piece. A great one is we do a lot of business with irrigation and church companies, right? So irrigation, it's going to pick up in the spring and summer. When we're talking about churches, we got a lot of C&E Christians out there. And for those of you that don't know, it's Christmas and Easter. All right. That's when you're going to see a lot of participation on your church site. So are you doing something specialized in communication around those areas to be able to capitalize on that increased engagement that you're going to get? And that's why this data and thinking about your voice in these areas is so important. So when we talk about a customer journey, some of you might know it as a marketing funnel. Either way, it's the same thing, right? It's how do you get your audience from point A, the initial engagement, all the way to point B, where it's that conversion, if it's donation, if it's a purchase, if it's a call, whatever it is. That path that they follow is extremely important. And one of the most important pieces is making sure that there are multiple entrances into that aspect. So not just emails. Do we have contact and conversion pieces, on the homepage of our site? Do we have, calls to action in our blog posts? Are we giving you a chance not only to engage with you through the front door, but are we inviting you as a friend to come participate in a different entrance? My grandparents have a great sign on the back door of their house, which you have to go through their garage to get into. And it's stuck with me ever since I was a little kid, where it says, "Real friends don't knock and come in through your back door." And that's what you want your audience to feel like, right? They're friends, they're partners, they're someone that if they need something, they know that they don't have to access you in just one way. You're available to them, in your working hours in multiple paths of communication. So that can be form submissions, it can be click to call, sign up for our email list, take a look at us on social. Have you interacted with some of our Google ads? How's our video performing? These are things where when you introduce these multiple entrances, you're going to engage with people with different interests. So you have to think about it that way. Some of us are text learners. Some of us have to experience something to get it for the first time. And, other times you're like me. You've done a ton of research before you even engage with something, and you just want that customer journey to be short and quick and, maybe one or two clicks or taps away. And so when we talk about this customer journey, you not only want to think about your different entrance points, but how easy they are to navigate. And that's when you incorporate a partner who, maps out your site, understands what those interactions are, and can kind of walk you through how to streamline that process, which is, arguably the most important piece as everything continues forward digitally. This is a great physical example of it. Awareness, consideration, decision, and then when you're really good at it, delight, right? Because you want your experience to not only be satisfactory to the end, but you want someone to be so excited by your service that they then talk about it with other people. So online ads and search, we've talked about, they're extremely important. If it's something that your company isn't doing now, we'd love to talk to you about why it's extremely important. We want to be able to engage with people where they are. whether it's, on their cell phone, on their desktop, or even, just in the real world. Social media, blogs, landing pages, these calls to action and forms, it's going to get people to start thinking about your brand, realizing that you're an expert in the space, where then finally they go to your website, they engage with you through an email or a newsletter, and they reach that conversion point to get you to that process where you're actually providing your service for them. And now you've heard enough from me. We're going to talk a little bit more in the question section later, but let's get to some real world application. And I couldn't think of two better people to talk about this from two very different aspects. Okay, we have an outstanding attraction in the Civil Rights Museum that's focused on education, donation, and advancement of goals. And then, of course, Marks Binsdorf, which is more commercial, more focused on, the actual monetary conversion and the business to business communication in some aspects, but, providing a service that can be scary for some people and, really monitoring that expertise. So I'm going to hand it over to Gramisha from the National Civil Rights Museum to lead us through this section.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Micah. And Gramisha, you should have control of the slides now, so you can go ahead and advance.
Awesome, thank you. My buttons disappeared for a second there, so I had to get reacclimated. Thank you all at Speak so much for inviting the National Civil Rights Museum to be a part of this conversation. I know I joined the organization the summer of last year, and Micah has been a tremendous advocate and supporter as we're ushering things through on different fronts. So I'm really excited to share what we've been up to these past few seasons, and how we are really thinking about engaging our audiences where they are, how they want to be engaged, and providing different types of programming and experiences for them to keep coming back and keep supporting us. So thank you all for having us. So I just wanted to, I know Micah and Lee at the very top share a bit about the work that we do at the National Civil Rights Museum. So just kind of some highlights I wanted to share. We're going into our 33rd year as a cultural institution here. So we're excited about celebrating that milestone here in Memphis, Tennessee. Some of the highlights around what we do for our community, our audiences, our network is providing, this comprehensive overview of the American civil rights story, right? So whether that's through exhibitions, whether that's through educational programs that we do that, but it's really about promoting and understanding, right? And making sure that everyone has that access to understanding history, because, as we know, it does move us forward, right? To understanding where we were, so we can really chart a course forward. And so I'm excited to share a little bit about the things that we do in the digital marketing space to advance our efforts. There we go. And so just, you'd think that I was just reading Micah's slides word for word when I was putting these together, because when you talked about knowing your audience, right, that is extremely important. But, one thing that I also like to dig a little deeper into is, putting the audience experience first, right? We talk about user experience. We talk about centering, the expectation of different types of people coming to your digital space. And so some highlights there are, looking at demographics, looking at motivation, looking at people's interests and their challenges, right? So what are you capable of solving for people that want to engage, with the National Civil Rights Museum? And so once you figure that out, and then is when, I say you move on to strategy, right? So thinking about what the objectives are, launching into a campaign. What does it look like to be integrated with all other parts of marketing, right? So digital marketing is a piece of the pie, right? We're part of a larger engine. So that's PR and brand marketing, that's creative marketing, that's also data and analytics. How is the content that you're pushing out there performing, right? But all this, you can't get to these questions unless you figured out who are you actually speaking to. And so that's a couple of high points that I'll be talking through here as we talk about, motivations to engage with the institution, right? And so when you think about, I think Lee alluded to this earlier, around kind of the 3 buckets of opportunity that I would say, and that's really drilling it all the way down to its simplest form, because there's so many opportunities to engage with the National Civil Rights Museum. But the 3 key areas that I zoom in on are visitors, programs, and the participation in those, as well as our donors and our giving opportunities. And so just, won't read this verbatim, but just to share a little bit about why people visit the museum, right? They're looking for this connection. They're looking for access to information that they may not get elsewhere, right? So being here, being on the grounds, being here, the power of this place is extremely moving for people. And so for them to be immersed in experiences, to be able to educate themselves and then take that knowledge back to, where they're from, right? So whether that's, here locally in Tennessee, or if there's someone visiting from abroad. And so making sure that, we're understanding the motivations, but also the end experience for them. And so that also feeds into the programs that we offer, and why people, you think about coming through the museum, it's a 2.5 hour immersion, but then, quite often people are asking, okay, how else can I, go deeper with my knowledge, right? And so whether that's our, department, our DEI and community engagement department, or that's education, right? Developing programs that's really trying to solve for things that people are looking for around civil and human rights, and how they can really activate where they are. And so when you think about, in those 2 regards, sustainability is how we continue to thrive, and how we look forward to another, 33 years to be able to do this work is donor support, right? Folks being, so inspired by what we do here that they're willing to, donate their time, talent, and most often treasure to help us advance the work that we do. And so I'm going to get, into a little bit of, what this looks like from, our perspective in kind of that digital marketing space of things, and how we like to activate through different channels. And so the first thing that, I want to jump into, and I feel like I just took us high and I'm taking us down deep real fast. And so when you think about the audience, right, trying to understand, who you're speaking to, how do you develop messaging to engage, right? And so for us, it's, taking the data that we have, from different programs, just all the different touch points or entries into engaging with the museum, and figuring out who those people are, right? Everyone's not going to fit into a neat persona or fit into a box, but we like to be able to, have a baseline for how we will engage. And so this first persona, I'll share a little bit about, as you see, is the educator advocate, Jalissa Anderson. She's a history teacher, extremely passionate about bringing knowledge and experiences to her students. And it talks a bit about how she engages, what platform she uses. It talks about how she's always seeking opportunities or experiences that provide, some tangible opportunity or materials that she can bring back, right? And so the one thing that I want to zoom in on is, how she uses social media, right? How she chooses to interact, because if you see it, she's not really on social looking for those opportunities. So it's okay. So how do we connect with her, right? What other ways can we, tap into, her channels of receiving information? And so I want to also share a little bit high level, like, because, when you think about personas, like I said, that everyone doesn't fit into a neat box, but we like to think that if we have a baseline, right, of thinking about like a Jordan Lee, right? He's, based in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a software developer. He wants to connect with folks like him that are interested in social justice and community activism, but also with that role in tech, interested to know how he can promote social change. And so for us to really understand first where people are, how they're motivated, how do we engage them, right? Because for Jordan, he may not be at the point where it's, okay, I'm going to give, but he may want to donate his time, right? Or donate his service in a different way, which we have so many different opportunities to support in that way. And so I wanted to kind of take you through a couple of personas, because as you can see, there's no one sure way that you could reach an audience. And so Jordan may get his news from the digital space because he's in tech and he's always online, right? And so how do it may be easier to reach him than it is to reach Jalissa, right? And so I just wanted to kind of zoom in on why it's important to know who your audience is and know those ways that you need to, really connect and communicate with them. And now here, I wanted to talk a little bit about visitors, right? And so thinking about, Jordan and Jalissa, right? So obviously they would have to travel, right, to get to the museum, get to the institution. But what I wanted to zoom in on is, when you think about digital marketing, unless you're a cultural institution or institution that's really driven by like social proof and community endorsement, then this is why these kinds of forms of marketing are extremely important, because it's the visitors that are being your ambassadors, right? And so when you look at the different spaces where you have a TripAdvisor or you have Google reviews or you have a Viator, and people are engaging, they're sharing their photos, they're talking about their experience. And for someone like Jalissa, she's looking at reviews. She's not on social, right? Looking to see the latest things happening. She may be saying, well, what are other people saying about the institution? What are folks sharing in a way that's digestible for me, because I'm not a social fan. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that I highlighted, the importance of that experience, because what the reviews demonstrate is that we were very thoughtful about how we engage visitors when they come to the institution, right? And so, this is not something we can fabricate, right? This is the community letting, peers and letting people know this is how I felt, right? So, for us to be ranked number 3 of all the things to do in Memphis, I think does speak to how we prioritize the experience for our visitors. And, just, to think about in a year how many people come through the museums. I know you see this fun GIF here that's just rolling, talking about just last year how we had over 400,000 visitors come through the museum, right? And so, you think about the impact of that you're having on people that's taking this knowledge to other spaces of the world. And so, that feedback loop is important. And in some instances, we're not going to be 5 stars, right? So we're 4.8 because we're always striving to be better. And so in those instances, it's us really understanding it. If we didn't do the best job, how do we do better the next time? And so just wanted, zooming in more on what that looks like. And so, okay, here we go. Uh-oh, there we go. And so just moving along to think about one of the other big, opportunities for people to engage when you think about why they're motivated is our programs and events, right? And so here I pulled out an example of a recent event that just took place in March, where it was, a integrated effort. But when you think about, Micah, to your presentation about, not another email, but if you are going to do email, making sure that you do that well. And so how are you giving people the information that they need? How is it compelling? And, I can't take the credit for being the mastermind behind the designs, right? I need the creative team to support me in that effort, right? And so when you think about what it looks like to develop an engaging email campaign, does it have all of the pieces that you need for people to get that information? So I linked this one here. Let's see if it is going to share and let me open the screen. Are you all able to see me moving through the screen?
Yes.
There? Awesome. And so you'll just see more of kind of what design elements went into developing, right? So it's an event. So you want to make sure that you're including, the speakers and all the content and all the things that, because when you think about, an email campaign and you sending it to your full distribution list, you never know what's going to entice. So you put all the information there for people, right? So you know that most people need minimal information. They just need the title and they're ready. But some folks are like, okay, I need a little bit more for me to feel engaged. And so just wanting to kind of share kind of what it looks like for us to make sure that we're, giving people everything they need to make that decision, right? And so what I also wanted to do here, did we go back to, there we go. And so when you think about, all the campaigns and emails, this is one of them that we're sending, right? And so you think about then the opens and the reads, like for us, thinking about how people are engaging is important. And so for this event, we were able to get, in the space, close to 200 people to engage with us for, with all the efforts that we were able to put in. And so what else I just dropped in here, because it's always the companion, right? How does email perform, but also what's happening on social. And so what I did was just dropped in, a video that we had here from one of the pieces of content that we pushed out that, performed, well and got almost 3,000, almost 3,500 views. And so when you think about, all the actions and all the ways people want to engage, it's important for it to be consistent and for people to, expect that, you'll be giving them the information that they need. And so just wanted, to highlight those couple of experiences, quite recent, but I think with the topic specifically, it's one that you want to be able to engage people fully. And so I wanted to also speak a little bit about giving specifically.
August 22nd.
Sorry. There we go. And so when I think about programs and events, that's one other opportunity to engage. And most often when you think about how you've enriched a person's experience and how you've really inspired them to think about, okay, I visited the museum, right? Now I've attended this program. How else can I really demonstrate my support, right? Because as we know, as a nonprofit, sustainability is the most important piece of the advancement in the work. And so when I think about kind of not going back to the journey, right? And so the piece of that you want to ensure is that how are we creating a through line, or how are we creating opportunities for people to advance their experience and deepen their engagement. And so I wanted to highlight, how it's important to make sure that you stay connected, with people, whether, when they're visiting, what it looks like, in those campaign and those follow-ups, and then also thinking about those programs, right? So if folks are visiting, internationally and from across the world, they're not likely to come back in a few months for a program, but making sure we have virtual opportunities that are accessible to them, right? And so we're always thinking about all of those ways that we can engage audiences. And so this next information that I wanted to speak a little bit about is around our giving, right? Initiatives and our development and fundraising. And this stat here, raising this amount in 60 minutes, I know that's probably stood out to everybody, but I wanted to, talk a little bit about how we got to this opportunity. And, it wasn't just, we're going to do what we thought of it that day and it happened. And so, when you think about solving a problem or wanting to meet a challenge, you think about access to the the history and access to the knowledge for young people that, you know, in many instances, they may not readily have that available. And so the National Civil Rights Museum, you know, really serves that purpose to make sure that, you know, the future generations have the access that they need. And so, you know, that was the genesis of launching the Youth Education Fund, right? And so it's thinking about what can we do? How can we mobilize the community? Because we're listening, right? We're hearing, every, people in our, sphere and people in the community talk about, history no longer being available, right, in the ways that it has in the past. And so, this is something that we thought about. How do we launch this in a way that is impactful, but how do we also soften the ground for people? And so that was really a part of the process for us. So this campaign we launched during our 32nd Freedom Award event that took place last October. And so leading up, we really leaned on email marketing and one-to-one relationship engagement to kind of share with people that this will be an opportunity for them to support. And so by the time we get to the event and we make the announcement, we, leveraging technology to do that, right? So for us, it was text to give, right? So in that moment, the CTA was, we want to make sure that youth have this opportunity, that the youth are able to access education, where they are, and getting to the National Civil Rights Museum. So that was a big component of it, even transportation and what that looks like. And so, we were able to mobilize that room. And I would say in the first 15 minutes, we may have, raised half of this amount that you see here. And it, the ticket was still going. And so when you think about in the digital space, I wanted to also just kind of show what this, this is a campaign that we built, but it's that consistency and knowing, people needing access to that information in the most succinct way. And so when you're asking people to give any resource, making sure that, it's clear on what they're donating to and what they're supporting. So we were able to, create some really compelling impact statements on how their donation would be used and how it would impact. And so I can honestly say, I think that was a very successful campaign for us to be able to make that impact in that moment and continue to do that. And so when I think about, like I said, those three engagement opportunities and how we leverage, audience experience and strategy to move those forward, it's the synergy, right? And the collaboration across teams, but being able to have opportunities where we're leveraging all the functions at our disposal. As you saw, I moved through quite a few different tools, right, to get the work done. But, that's necessary, right? Because not all audiences are going to engage the same with the same kinds of content. And so, I do think that's my time, but I did want to make sure that I share, kind of high level how we like to engage here at the National Civil Rights Museum, and hopefully I can answer some questions for you all.
All right, thank you, Ramisha. That was great. I loved your specific examples, and their personas were such a good idea to be thinking about for any marketing professional. So I'll hand it over to Jared here, and you should have control so you can move the slides along. So take it away, Jared. Jared, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're good now.
Great, wonderful. All right. Thanks for having me today and allowing me to highlight our company and our overarching marketing strategy for everything that we do here at Marks Binsdorf Realtors. Just to give you a brief background on us, we are the oldest real estate company in Memphis. We were established in 1868. We've gotten into various kinds of businesses over the, 155 years that we've been around. We used to do commercial real estate, but now we're focusing essentially on residential real estate in Memphis and soon to be North Mississippi. We have 37 realtors at the moment, trying to get some more that are based in the North Mississippi area. Right now, our marketing strategy is kind of broken down here, with search engine optimization, which obviously Speak helps us out with. Social media, direct mail, and print ads, which I help oversee and manage. And we've been with Speak Creative, I believe, since 2013. Trying to get that button. There we go. Okay. So starting off with search engine optimization, like I said, we're a residential real estate firm in Memphis. We only do residential real estate. We're not a commercial real estate company. So we're targeting obvious keywords like homes for sale Memphis, houses for sale in Memphis, real estate agents Memphis, and other variations that might be able to attract relevant traffic to our website for people who are looking to list and sell their home or buy a home within the Memphis area. We actually do a lot of business worldwide. We work with FedEx, St. Jude, International Paper. There are a lot of big corporations that are based in Memphis. And so while we're a local real estate company, we do have a global outreach potentially. Over the last quarter, we've seen only positives. Looks like we've gained 26% in user acquisition over the last quarter, a 16% increase in views, 18 in conversions. And I'll get to this page here in a second, but since we've implemented this new page, which Michael was great in overseeing the development of, it took several months, and it was a behemoth of a project, but he oversaw it very well, and this page works beautifully. We'll get to that. Yeah, okay, so this is our current listings page. It was a manual entry page, right? So all of the listings, anytime there was a new listing, I had to go in and manually add the listing and take down old listings that have been sold. And so that was a little bit of an arduous process. One of our partners wanted to implement, information that's populated directly and automatically from the MLS onto our website. And here we have managed to, here we're tracking things like how much time people spend on this page, how many events, how many clicks a user takes. And obviously we want people to be searching for properties that are within their parameters that they're in the market for. So this is an essential page to both our website, but also our business. Under search engine optimization, we do have a blog here, and Speak has been very good at writing out that blog. They're very on schedule, and this helps to accrue a lot of backlinks and helps to increase our domain authority and our likelihood and our trust within search engines. And the content here just stays there. So if somebody has a question 2 years from now that they might type into their browser, how effective are open houses, this blog post can potentially be shown to that user. Speak also writes the evergreen content for our website. And so, in the space of SEO, we have like hierarchical elements, H1 tags, metadata, all kind of things on the back end that are yielding to or telling the search engine what our website is about and how much they can trust us. This is well-written, original, relevant content that keeps viewers on our page. And when it runs that time up, it's a positive signal to the search engine that, hey, these are relevant quality pages. And so those pages tend to rank better based on the better content. Speak has done a great job building out more specified location pages. Sometimes when oftentimes when people have lived within Memphis, they might not be looking for homes for sale in Memphis. They might be looking for homes for sale in one of our popular suburbs, Collierville, Germantown. Speak did a great job of building each location pages that will garner relevant traffic searching for those relevant areas to those pages. On the social media front, we are very active on social media. We have listings go up every day. We have closings every day. So we like to keep the public informed on just our activity. So we're able to share links to our listing. We're able to provide phone numbers, provide contact information. We want you to get in touch with that realtor as soon as you possibly can if you see a house on our social media page that you're interested in. And this is also great for sharing time-sensitive content. We do a lot of open houses and a lot of realtor luncheons. And so it's important that those are up on our social media channels in a timely fashion. Instagram, we basically post the same information on Facebook that we do Instagram, but Instagram's always going to have the visual edge. It's also really important just within the realtor community for them to be able to communicate, to stay connected, to kind of show and share, the fun things throughout the day of real estate. We post birthdays here. We want our realtors to feel recognized, and we just want to make our feed fun. We also do a lot of direct mail. Mail in our industry, when we want to target specific neighborhoods, direct mail is really kind of the only effective way to do that. If I'm a realtor and if I'm representing a buyer that wants to live in a specific neighborhood, we might launch a mail campaign to that specific neighborhood. We might even write a letter to a specific house and just ask, hey, if you're looking to sell your property, I've got a client here and their interests are very sincere. They want to buy your house. So we'll do that all the time. We also mail out postcards, as you see here, related to closings to the neighborhood the homes get sold in. And we'll post, or we'll send out, once they post, postcards for new listings. So if I have a house in a neighborhood and I've got a friend, they're looking to sell their house and I want them to live in my neighborhood, I'll say, hey, this one just came up for sale. We also do print and traditional ads. We have a local billboard here in town that we put our realtors on. We just want to get our name and our phone number out there and give the public opportunities to engage with us. And we are also advertising with more traditional means by print advertisements in a couple of local publications. So that's kind of our summary of what we do here at Marks Bensdorf. And Speak Creative has been so great as far as tracking conversions, making sure that what we're doing is actually working. We're not just throwing things against the wall and hoping for the best. We want to know, what did we do and how effective was that? And, in the next cycle, do we need to change some things up? So Speak sends us a digital marketing report every month, and they're very transparent about basically how we're doing and how the work that we're doing is performing. And I think that's all for me for now. Thank you all.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Jared. I'm going to take control back, and I know we're a little over time here. We had so many great tips and tricks to share. So if you can stick around a little longer, we're going to get to some questions. We have a few questions that came in kind of ahead of time, but we definitely already answered this first one. So I'm going to skip ahead to our next one. So I'm going to ask both of you this. So how does your work with Speak help you to find new audiences and convert businesses? And I'll let whoever wants to take a stab at that first.
Yeah, I'll go. So Speak really helps us by everything I kind of mentioned with like location pages. I'm sure that was Speak's idea on how to attract more relevant traffic within the Memphis real estate market if people are looking to live in Bartlett or live in Arlington. That's an opportunity. There's a lot of search traffic related to those, to those suburbs. We want to make sure that we're getting that traffic. So that's one example as far as how to, or as far as how Speak has been able to help us garner a new audience.
And I can jump in on there quickly, Lee, if I can.
Go ahead.
The first one that comes to mind is when we think about our presence and our relationship with Google. Speak manages our Google Ads program. And so when you think about, how people are finding us organically or through paid search, Speak is a phenomenal partner and being intentional and helping us iterate our campaigns, right? And not just leaving them stagnant, but making sure they're dynamic and thinking about what's working in this season, right? And so you spoke earlier, Micah, about the Remembering Martin Luther King event that happened just a couple weeks ago that commemorated his untimely death. And so when you think about the seasons or kind of the, I would say the high points of the work, those kinds of ongoing or evergreen ad campaigns and ad programs have been extremely useful for us for engaging new audiences and converting visitors and people to support more.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I did get a question come in through chat, so I'm going to pose that one. So Kelby asked, does Speak have the ability to assist with obtaining segmented mailing lists for direct mail? Which, awesome question. I am going to throw this one to Micah. Micah, can you tell everybody what we do for segmented?
Absolutely. The short answer to that question is yes. Like it's something that we do for a number of clients. The longer answer, and what you're probably a little bit more interested in, is how we do it and what we can actually do with that list. So we work with a number of vendors when it comes to direct mail, because when you're talking about mail, the last thing you want to do is, broadcast and send things to folks who might not be interested in your service. So we want to get into the targeting, right? And you can get pretty granular these days with direct mail. We can segment out lists based on zip code, geographic area. We've got some capabilities to do it by income, housing-based pieces, all this information that's acquired through public record, average household income, housing size, where you actually live, and then we can cross-reference that with, suggested interests in that geographic area to help us create an even more segmented list. So direct mail is a really powerful tool when used appropriately. I'll reference a campaign that we're doing here soon. We're working with the city of Memphis for their bikeway and pedestrian safety initiative. And one of the things that we noticed is that there are 5 target zip codes that are seeing a majority of the issues with traffic violence. And so how do you combat that? Well, we go directly to those zip codes. We share the information about why it's important to consider this safety. We are doing direct communication with the representatives for those zip codes to say, hey, here's some legislation or some public initiatives that we can make to try to emphasize the importance of this issue. But when it comes to direct mail, yes, not only can we assist with obtaining the audience, we can help you target it and narrow it down even further to hopefully kind of reach your goal and get to that point where we're doing something specifically for the audience you're trying to reach, rather than just sending out 500 mailers to a specific neighborhood.
Awesome. Yep, that is always key. And as a marketing director for the marketing agency, I can say that is something that we use frequently. So that is perfect. We had another question come through. So Claire is wondering how Speak approaches planning out strategic content. And an example would be, can they put together a full content calendar? So Micah, you can take this one, or Jared or Gramisha, y'all can jump in there too.
Planning out content is, extremely important to what we do. And I really want to toss this one over to Gramisha and Jared because their social stats are a big reason as to why we brought them out here. And it's actually something that they do in-house. When we do these webinars, we obviously want to make you aware of what we can do as a partner for you. But we understand that sometimes there are, resource restrictions, or there's something where you feel like you can best represent your brand through social, which, is something that the museum is really focused on in this last season, developing that internal process. But at least for Speak, what it comes to is we have, a three-pronged process. We get to know you. We want to know your event schedule, what's going on, what's important to your brand. We want to take a look at your competitors, what's working for them, how are they generating traffic, what are the pieces in your space that are actually genuinely creating interest. And then we want to take a look at your website. What's the most visited pages? What are the pieces of information that we can garner where we're not guessing what people want to see? We have information about what they want to see. And we use that data to build out a full calendar that then we take to a partner and say, hey, these are our ideas. What do you think? Do you sign off on it? But, I want to start with Jared on this one, Gramisha, if you don't mind, because their social stats year over year and month over month have been averaging a 22% growth rate. And for those of you in the marketing business out here, you know that 8% to 10% is kind of the standard. So to be averaging almost triple that is outstanding. So I know Jared has a ton to talk about on content.
Yeah, so I track everything through Meta Business. I mean, all the stats for our Facebook and Instagram are there. We really, we don't do a lot of conversions through social media. I'll be honest, or that's kind of not where we kind of like target like inquiries on like a particular house, but like as far as growth and as far as like reach and engagement, I kind of track that through Meta Business, the Meta Business suite, as well as the end of the month report that I get through Micah. I think that was the right question. How do you track conversion based on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things too that I really want to emphasize that Marks does supremely well is that when we're talking about conversions, you're right. Depending on your business, sometimes you're not going to generate it through a social post. I don't know anyone who's spending, upwards of 300K on a home after seeing it posted on Facebook. But where we get a lot of that interest, and when we're talking about those multiple entrances into the marketing funnel, is Marks does a great job of capitalizing on organic share and building word of mouth that way. So when you get to a longer run conversion process like a home sale, which can take anywhere up from a few days to months potentially, you want to make sure that you're staying in front of your audience. And so generating that word of mouth, creating that share is extremely important. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you get something that is more event-based, something that is more, attraction-focused, and building that physical relationship, getting people through the door. And Gramisha, I think the museum has been really focused on that recently, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And you think about being very intentional about how we track conversions, right? Because in the digital space, and I'm just going to say it, there are some metrics that are more vanity than others, right? And so when you think about, what is this action, like what does this channel what's the purpose that it serves for us? So it's social purely awareness, right? Are we really looking forward to convert people to act? And so, but one thing I do want to jump in a little deeper on, and Micah, you can speak to this too, is how we are, leveraging, paid ads, right? And looking at pixel codes and looking at source codes and how we track the content. That's really how we track engagement via social when we're thinking about the paid ads specifically. And so I can speak a little bit too about, going back to when we talk about visitorship and like what are all the actions that lead to that. I was having a conversation with my team about, there's no one digital function that is driving all the things. It's a collaborative and integrated effort. And so we look at the metrics across the board, right? And so you think about, what's happening in the traditional space, like what's happening on the PR side, or what's happening, on the one-to-one relational side. And I know with Marks, you talked about word of mouth, like people are going to go where other people have trusted, that they've gotten good service. And so, I think about, and it's always unique to the organization, because as a cultural institution, like I said, those reviews and that social proof and community endorsement is what we really look to gauge how we're performing, if that helps.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. All good stuff. We have time for one more question here. This person says they run into the issue a lot of having a really small team and small budget, but would love to know what all the speakers say is the most effective piece of their content marketing strategy. And then for Speak, where should a small team start if they want to bring on an agency to feel like an extension of their team? So maybe I'll have Micah, you kick us off, and then we'll have the other two wrap us up, and then we'll be done for the day.
Yeah, let's tag team this thing. Really quickly, I saw we did have another anonymous attendee ask about actually tracking those conversions. It is set up through your Google Analytics. It can also be managed through your Meta Business Suite. If you don't have that set up, that's something to talk to your partner or your internal marketing team about. It's as simple as installing a Google tag that'll track those different versions. And it can also take the information of where they're coming in from your newsletter or any other additional pieces of communication that way. It's extremely valuable. But when we're talking about a small team and a small budget, not to pat myself on the back here, but this is actually kind of a specialty for me. I have a large client list, but I also have a client list that is very specialized with some smaller clients that operate somewhere between 8 and 12 hours monthly of retainer time, which I use to balance against some of our larger partners that have a little bit bigger of a budget. And where I always try to start out there is with your search engine optimization and your website performance. Your website is going to be digitally how your audience gets to know you first. Any external communication, the end goal is to always get them onto your platform and generate that conversion. It's why we spent so much time talking about the marketing funnel. If you have leaks in that customer conversion conversation where people are leaving your web pages or broken links or your pages aren't ranking the proper way, then it doesn't matter how great your content is. If your foundation isn't solid, the house is going to come down. If we didn't have work, in the early 60s, the National Civil Rights Museum might not even exist today. So having those pieces established where you understand that the most functional piece of your brand is going to be your website and that actual conversion method, that's where you need to be spending your time, energy, and really funding first.
I'll
I
say
think a great
So,
Jared, I was actually going to toss it over to you because you referenced it. You and Marks have been spending the time on the SEO optimization, and it's been paying off.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we've been able to track that thanks to you guys. So this question, what is the most effective piece of our content marketing strategy? I'd have to say it's search engine optimization, because that is relevant traffic. Those are people who were looking for us, but they just don't know it yet. So That's having relevant traffic to your website is going to be an effective marketing strategy. As far as having a small budget, there's two things you can do that don't take any budget, and that would be word of mouth, which might be, in my opinion, the most valuable type of marketing is word of mouth. And then second would be social media, and just jumping into that and starting to follow people that are relevant to you, putting out relevant content, replying to people who are posting on your page, and just being really engaged with your followers. So those would be my kind of two main recommendations. Just always make sure you're doing a good job so you have that word of mouth potential, and then just put your business out there on social media.
And I can just jump in quickly. I know we're wrapping this part up. And I mean, even, just dovetailing Jared is the how you engage once the content, is in the digital space, because it's, you want to be in conversation, you want to be in dialogue with your supporters and followers in the digital space, because we're humans, right? And so I think that is for us, we really do get into community on social platforms, because people are looking for us to be responsive, especially in the time now when we think about civil and human rights. Like, the content is not just passive for us, but also storytelling, right? We're telling the stories not only of American civil rights, but also the people that are coming through the museum, the people that are supporting us, the students that are supporting us. We recently had a competition where we recognize youth poets, right? And so when you think about how you're engaging the community, I would honestly say it's an online, offline collaboration, right? So how that content performs online, it's a complement to all the other parts of the marketing work.
And then I'll bookend this, Lee, and I know you're going to wrap us up, but I'll bookend this with the last thing. With a small budget, I'm going to give you the most effective piece of no budget marketing you can do, and it's customer review. You've already had a conversion. You've already had people come through the funnel. They've already had a positive interaction with you. You should be following up and creating digital word of mouth by going to these people and saying, hey, can you leave us something on Google? Can you talk about us on Yelp? Can we have a review from you? Have those links ready. Have those things where all they need to do is just click and type in their information, because the first thing you do whenever you're looking for something new and you're considering a business is you're going to want to see what anyone else has said about them. And not only is that going to generate that digital word of mouth that we've been talking about here, but it's also going to increase that search engine optimization. The best reviewed and the most reviewed organizations on the internet are going to be the ones that show up first. And that costs you no money. It's a form email. It's a conversation with someone that you've already taken through your whole entire process. And it's as simple as they type out 140 characters. If you're like me and you're an original Twitter guy, it's easy to send those out there. All it is it's 5 stars. They were great. Thank you to Gramisha for her piloting us through the museum. Jared was fantastic in connecting us with the right realtor. Those are the things that you should be focused on, because anytime someone has a positive experience with your brand and can share it with someone else, it's going to be more powerful than any type of wording that comes through an official channel. We trust other people. That's just how it works.
Awesome. Micah, love that good free tip. Never going to complain about those. And I want to thank all 3 of you for being here today, sending us through all of your efforts, your campaigns, giving us great tips and tricks. I also want to thank everybody who stuck around. I know we went a little bit over, but thank you for all the great questions, being super engaged this whole time. We really appreciate it. You can check out our website for more resources like partner spotlights. We do tips and tricks and guides. We have an SEO optimization guide, GA4 how-to, that are available for you to download on our website for free. And we do these bi-monthly. So if you feel like you have something great to share with our audience on this webinar series, please shoot me an email. We love having a wide variety of panelists from different roles in their organizations and different industries. So make sure you shoot me an email. And once again, thank you so much to everyone. It was great having you guys here. Micah, Gurmisha, Jared, thank you. And our audience, thanks for sticking around so long and talking marketing.